You are listening to 600 Saga. Today's feature is Planetary Politics and Pizza by Jennifer Flath. Before I succumb to noxious gases or molten cheese burns, my tale must be told. First off, our planet is a mess. Blargots and clangers have been mortal enemies forever. I won't bother getting into who blew up whose planet and who was at fault. We all study that to death in school. I will say that in so many ways, things are worse now that we share a single spinning globe in the vast universe. The official edict by the Interplanetary Task Force used the words, "A few stellar centuries of togetherness to sort out issues." Like we're a planetary buddy bench. In reality, peoples who hate each other are not only forced to live together, they have to elect a single planetary representative to the Interplanetary Council every 3 chronocycles. Believe me, elections are ugly. Mudslinging, campaign corruption, voter fraud, Blargots mailing piles of wool to unsuspecting clangers, clangers boycotting freeze-dried pineapple. It's embarrassing. Our planet is the laughingstock of the Interplanetary Union. The IU is no help, goading us by sending their reporters every year to mock our electoral spectacle. If it's not a Nan-Romaine expose on edict-violating segregated schools, it's a Pono Network opinion poll about candidates flinging egg salad at each other during debates. It was one time, okay? Before I pass out from heatstroke, I'll fast forward to me. I joined Open Borders in college and volunteered for 6 months of humiliating quarantine to participate in a culture-bridging work-study swap. My parents were not thrilled with Open Borders, but I knew that was because they were part of the old regime of hate and division, and I was going to fix the planet. Hence, I ignored them and took a job serving endless arugula herring pizzas to horrified clangers who occasionally turn around and walk out the door after spotting me at the counter. Their reaction could be an overdue realization about arugula herring pizza as a crime against vegetation and sea life, but probably not. See, Blargots and clangers don't eat together. It's not an official law anymore, not since the Interplanetary Edict on Food Segregation, but clangers specifically serve food so disgusting no Blargot would ever set foot inside one of their restaurants. This work study sold me on the opportunity to meet each other across the table and build a bridge of friendship over food. The informational holo brochure showed a bridge made out of spoons and puffy loaves of bread with little cartoon animals shaking hands. The brochure specifically left off all the bits about how bad baked herring smells. At least I don't have to eat the food I try to serve with a culture-bridging smile. Whew, hot. Speeding up. Today, seconds before Leafy Fish Pizza was about to close, Blargot Representative Vin walked in, warming my heart. He was surely attempting to heal the fragmented spirit of our hate-weary people. Then, Clanger Representative Class strolled in. Uh-oh. After 3 hours of screaming, their interplanetary mandated debate last night ended in both candidates smearing each other in frosting. There is nothing more humiliating than frosting. It's the only point on which our cultures agree. The mortal enemies veered toward the only occupied table. Shifty, overdressed people waited there, including a woman with aquamarine hair peeking out from her hood and sunglasses. She could only be the reporter Nan-Romaine. Sensing something fishier than the pizza, I grabbed an arugula herring monstrosity under the pretense of delivering it to their table and edged closer. To my surprise, no voices were raised. No food or cutlery being flung. This was the cycle things were going to change. All the Heal the Planet campaigns had finally taken root and were blossoming into a glorious flower of friendship. Take that, Grandpa. No more thanks holidays listening to him blather about clanger barbarians and how we could never coexist. Then I heard what they were talking about. If I denounce wool, said Vin, can Nan incite some rioting? Perfect, cackled a nondescript suit guy. I'll manufacture a shortage to drive up prices. Gasp! The suit guy was sliding Vin an envelope. What had I uncovered? I dumped the horror of a pizza on the nearest table and fumbled with my communion watch. I needed to record and expose this. Our political strife was being manufactured by bought politicians and the businesses behind them. I saw visions of myself taking down our strained political system, righting wrongs, creating a... Why is she staring? Ben growled. Are you taking a video? No one can know I was here. Suit guy whipped out a spiral-barreled gun. Congrats, kid, for uncovering the biggest political conspiracy since Earthworm Cove. I needed to run. I needed to get back in time and skip the Open Borders meeting with its inspirational handouts and its snazzy virtual holo tours, insisting I would change the world one stomach at a time. Instead, bzzzt. The sound vibrated through my whole body. But somehow I wasn't dead. I was in a different world. Flat, shiny tiles stretched for miles in all directions. A shadow swept down over me, and I gazed up in frozen horror. I was in the same world, the same horrible world of injustice and fraud. I was the only one who had changed, and not in the metaphorical way where my eyes were opened to the cold, cruel ways of the real world. I was barely as tall as half a herring tail. I dashed for a smashed arugula leaf, but a hand clamped down before I could take cover. Next thing I knew, I was tossed in the pizza oven, sinking knee-deep in the molten mozzarella of what should have been the last delivery of the day. I have just enough time to rearrange the herring to spell "Vote Non-Allied" before I succumb to the heat. Politics and fish pizza. They're killers. This was Planetary Politics and Pizza by Jennifer Flath. Jennifer lives in the rainy Pacific Northwest with her family and her cats. The land of rain and mountains and moss and rivers and ocean is constant fodder for her writing. Her first love is a young adult fantasy series called The Black Pearl. She's self-published the first 2 books in the series so far, along with their companion short stories, and is working on a third. As a writer, she loves to take serious things lightly and light things seriously. In her past life, she was an elementary school teacher, so she has a particular fondness for the antics of young people. Find her on Facebook, The Black Pearl Series, Twitter, Instagram, and Wattpad at Jen Snork, her website, Fantasy Worlds, and find The Black Pearl Series on Amazon. Check our show notes for links. She also contributes to the Mad Palace podcast, which is available in podcasting places, including YouTube. Music is provided by Mads. Learn more about 600 Second Saga, our authors, how to submit your flash fiction, and how to support the podcast in the show notes. This has been Mariah Avix and 600 Second Saga.